We got married in August 2016 in Cyprus. We knew more or less straight away that we wanted to start a family together. Mark's got a daughter, Ellie, my stepdaughter, and we knew straight away that she'd be a really good big sister. So we started trying straight away for a baby of our own. And we were quite lucky. We got pregnant pretty quick in the December. We got to January and I went to the toilet one day and noticed that I had a bit of blood when I went to the toilet. Didn't really know what it was, so spoke with Mark and we contacted the hospital, didn't we? Contacted the hospital and was told to go into the, it was called the Bleeding and Early Pregnancy Clinic. And I just remember the sonographer saying, how many weeks did you say you were? And I said 7. So she said, oh, your dates don't seem to add up with what we've got on the screen. Just let me go and get a second opinion. And I kind of knew at that point, things weren't really as they should be. So she went and got a second midwife who came in and they looked at the scan together and, we're going through the screen. And again, the second midwife said, yeah, it's not how it should be. But we're going to have to send you home and give you 2 weeks to see if, the baby grows to the size that it should be. So it was all really confusing. Didn't really know what we were doing, didn't really, have an idea of what to expect. And no sooner did we come home and, being told to wait 2 weeks, I went to the loo again and it was just the worst thing that could ever happen. So I ended up with really, really strong, the only way I could describe it is like period pains, but really, really, really strong stomach cramps. And then one time when I went to the toilet, I felt it come out, and I knew that I'd lost it at that point. So I just broke down in the toilet. There was nothing I could do about it, and at that point I knew that we'd lost our baby. So my mum was there at that point, and obviously Mark was there, and just a really, really horrendous experience. For you have all these hopes and plans, and it's kind of like they're just washed away with the flush of the toilet. You think, we're good people, why is life so unfair and why has it happened to us? And there's just no answers. There just was no answers. At this point, I was quite early on. I was about, only about 4 or 5 weeks pregnant. I remember saying to Mark, I've had quite a dull pain all day in my lower tummy. So he said, well, do you think you should ring the hospital? And at this point, I'd gone to the toilet and I'd had a bit of sort of uncommon discharge, if you like. So we rang the hospital and she said, you're going to have to come into A&E. She said, we'll have to check you over. She said, couldn't go to maternity wards because of COVID. You're going to have to go through A&E. But you're going to have to go on your own because there's only the patient that's allowed to go. And I think that was probably harder for Mark than it was for me, because I knew that I was going to get looked after, so to speak, in hospital. But Mark couldn't be there to look after me, and I think that's probably all that he wanted to do. So I remember going into A&E and giving my name in, and she said, what's the problem? And I just broke down at the desk and said, I think I'm having a miscarriage. I was just a mess, to be honest. So she said, look, we'll put you in this side room. So she put me in a side room, and signal in hospitals isn't really good, so I couldn't even get in touch with Mark as much as I wanted to. And then the doctor come in and he said, your temperature's up, we need to check that you haven't got a urine infection, so can you go and sort of do me a urine sample? So I said, yeah, no problem. So I went to the communal toilet and started to give a urine sample and just lost a lot of blood, given that, trying to give that urine sample. And I just knew straight away that exactly the same thing had happened. But this time I wasn't at home. I was in a hospital with no one to help me. Goes up to gynae, really lovely doctor and nurses, and examined my cervix and said, your cervix still closed, but you're going to have to come back in the morning and have a scan. We went back to the early pregnancy clinic, and again it was the same story around, you know, how far do you think you are, and you know, the screen doesn't correlate with your dates, and the position of the sac wasn't where it should be. And I just knew straight away that, you know, we were in exactly the same predicament. And I remember walking out and the midwife saying to me, you know, at least you can have a drink tonight, you know, and, you know, relax. Do you know what? I didn't want to relax. I didn't want to have a drink. I wanted to be pregnant. And, you know, walking out again, out of the door, you know, it was just awful. And then going downstairs to the hospital sort of waiting area, you know, and just happened to say to Mark, you know, I've lost it again. You know, I've been pregnant 3 times. I've miscarried twice. You know, why is that fair? And then you start blaming yourself, and all that type of stuff just comes back. And, you know, I'll never ever get over it. I'll never ever get over it. And you'd always think, like, what would have been?